So we have a preview of Friday's front pages as shown on Sky News. And so we are replacing the part 3 of Thursday's diagnosis of the clickstream media with this short glimpse at the front pages as provided by Sky News Online. And the line is, the Boris graph is, of course, persisting in going back to work or risking losing jobs. That is the warning Boris Johnson is giving to the, quote, workers. And the Daily Mirror is actually falling in line. And that suggests that Keir Starmer is following Boris Johnson, is not opposing him. And it is running the front page, we will be ready for kids' return. But elsewhere in the news, there is confirmation that Britain has the highest number of the virus infections going on right now. And there is even, and the Times as well saying that get Britain back to work, senior Tories tell Johnson. So the so-called unnamed senior Tories are appearing and popping over all over the place without any names. But the Times has got a surprising item on the front page, the top of the front page, not the main leader. The main leader item on the page 1 is, of course, get back to work, senior Tories tell Johnson. That is, get the workers back to work. But it is the lawyers who are being accused of scuppering, that is frustrating Priti Patel's anti-migrant crusade. And I'll come to explaining and contextually the use of that word crusade in a minute. Lawyers scupper Patel's bid to put channel migrants in Spain. Now, even on the day after the mainstream newspapers cottoned on to the fact that Marcy Beguma was found dead of starvation while her starving child was crying in a flat in Glasgow. She's a frustrated, obstructed, and now murdered asylum seeker, a woman in her 30s. And even after that news, the Times is running the news that anti-migrant provocation and incitement by Priti Patel have been scuppered, that is, frustrated by the lawyers. Now, as if that is a bad thing. So the Times piece says, as far as can be read, Priti Patel was furious last night after legal challenges forced the Home Office to abort a planned charter flight carrying cross-channel migrants to Spain. The ministry had aimed to remove 23 migrants yesterday after checks against EU databases found that they had passed through Spain on their route to Britain to claim asylum. Now, remember the 1951 Refugee Convention and various updates in other declarations and treaties, etc., make it absolutely illegal for a signatory state to refuse asylum applications or to, in any way, visibly or demonstrably or provably take any action to frustrate their effort to seek asylum. Now, Priti Patel has not only violated all those, but she is still on war against the migrants. And there are 23 migrants who are being treated as the Roman army of occupation and invasion of 1066. And she has just stopped flying 23 migrants to Spain. Can you believe that? They came through Spain, and so therefore they are being treated in effect as Spanish or Spaniards migrating to Britain from Spain. And this is illegal. That is absolutely against the convention and against all the other signed up to, if you like, undertakings that Britain has given. And what is happening with these stunts is that Priti Patel is coming across as right-wing, as racist as Nigel Farage, as right-wing, as racist as any of the other racists in the Tory party. And so she is doing that in order to come across as not only not as racist as Nigel Farage, but even more so. And Farage is important here because he went to her constituency and invaded a hotel where a number of asylum seekers were being temporarily housed. And she reacted to his condemnation of her on that, quote, evidence of asylum seekers actually being treated as human beings at all. So she kind of doubled or tripled her efforts to come across as cruel, lacking totally in compassion, and lacking totally in any respect or recognition for the international charters and treaties, convention, declarations. So she chartered a flight to take these 23 migrants to Spain. And these are not Spanish people. These are people coming from Africa or Asia. And they pass through Spain. Now, physically, the world, the planet, in order to reach country Z, people have to go through country Y, X, W, whatever. That is the nature of the physical planet. And that is not evidence that Britain has no obligation to process these applications by the asylum seekers or refugees. And so that is the latest outrageous, racist, illegal, and cruel behavior by Boris Johnson-fronted regime and by this daughter of migrants from East Africa, Priti Patel, who is out Torying and out Faraging Farage and other racists. And that is not the only bad news about society, about humanity, if the evidence of the conservative regime is treated as the proof of what is going on. So there is this front page lead news story on the front page of The Guardian of Friday, the 28th of August, 2020. And it says that COVID-19 death toll, that is the number of people died who were, if you like, in the word of the WSWS.org, mass murdered or massacred by the Boris-fronted regime. The actual number of people who were massacred and murdered and killed, the number was kept secret. And the reason why they wanted to keep the numbers murdered secret is to protect the businesses that were running or controlling the business of the care homes. So they were more interested in managing the reputation of these disreputable, negligent, cruel operators that were working in tandem with Boris Johnson and the herd immunity, HERD, herd immunity narrative and agenda and program. At the height of the pandemic in Britain, say between late March, April, May, June, whatever the actual dates, that is what they are reporting. It's and this is the Guardian's exclusive report. And this report says the Care Quality Commission, CQC in England, and the Care Inspector in Scotland are refusing to make public the data, the facts of the numbers of people who were killed, and they are refusing to identify which particular homes and operated by which particular care provider businesses had the numbers of people killed. And it is quoting a bereaved child of a person who died. Commercial interest, when people's lives are at stake, shouldn't even be a factor, said Shireen Kuhiar, whose father died in April after he tested positive for COVID-19 at a West London care home. The patient is the important one here, not the operation, not the corporation. And June Findlater, whose 98-year-old father died with coronavirus at care home near Glasgow, said, I would be terrified of any relative going into a care home without that information, because it does speak volumes. There were care homes with no deaths, and that's not a coincidence. Regulators should absolutely be able to provide this information. There is growing evidence, this is the Guardian's text, linking the way care homes operate with infection rates. Research last month showed coronavirus outbreaks were up to 20 times more likely in large care homes, while a study reported yesterday by The Guardian points to an association. And that's the end of that particular item on the front page of The Guardian, which is all that is available at this moment. The inside pages are not available. This is the Sky News kind of link on the front pages. And the item from The Guardian is being repeated in the I newspaper. So far on the front page, it doesn't source this information. Maybe inside the details, it acknowledges the Guardian. But the Guardian is claiming that it is their story, they are exclusive. So, but the point is made in the I newspaper, however they source it or not source it. Care home deaths kept secret to protect providers. Now, and this is the thing. They have been running a business on the coronavirus pandemic. And the business has been around the number of deaths they can manage, they can organize and manage. Just think about this, and there is no sign or sight or sound of Keir Starmer about in all this. And the Mirror, of course, is promoting the line that Boris Johnson once promoted, which is head teachers of schools, the ordinary schools, are saying, we will be ready for kids' return. But again, this is not a critical story, it's a plug for Boris Johnson agenda against all the advice. And that advice is being diluted, understated by the Mirror, which is obviously following here Keir Starmer's line. And it says but there the school head teachers were saying they will be ready for kids' return. They blast Tory chaos. That word again, chaos. Chaos is a word that is used to avoid having to identify a criminal or a wrongdoer as a criminal or a wrongdoer. Chaos is completely meaningless word. So it said that they blast Tory chaos and demand to know what plan B is if virus surges. They're saying, okay, there will be a likelihood of children dying if they return to school, because that's effectively what they're admitting there. They're saying, what is the plan B if the virus surges? Now, what should there be? And why should there be any plan at all? If the children are going to die and the virus is surging, what is there to do with the plan? This is bad enough. So that should be the plan, that abort and stop this enforced surge of the virus and stop these children going to school until and unless the virus has been truly kind of dealt with and stopped or prevented. But that's not what the Daily Mirror is saying. And this is, remember, this is the only Fleet Street paper, tabloid paper, or Fleet Street paper actually, because the Guardian avowedly opposed Jeremy Corbyn for most of his 5 years. So the Guardian, contrary to the mythologies that it is kind of left of center, it has behaved as right of center and attacked Corbyn throughout and attacked all the other ideological sort of stands taken by people who correctly identified Boris Johnson and the Tories as threatening the safety of the population, the security of the country, and all the rest of it. So the Daily Mirror is kind of tying, kind of competing with the Daily Tory graph, the Boris graph, in coming across as supportive of the return to school command. So the Daily Mirror is saying that and there is nothing in the papers, at least going by the front pages, there is nothing about housing, there is nothing about ban on evictions, there is nothing about the plight of the migrants, except a bit about the times that the Priti Patel was frustrated by lawyers successfully challenging her bid to put these 23 migrants on a chartered plane and send them to Spain. Now, all of these are issues of life and death, literally, for any number of people in this country. And these issues demand, therefore, active and absolutely competent and compassionate and transparent and moral and ethical intervention by the official so-called opposition fronted by Keir Starmer. But there is nothing. There is no evidence of him making the waves, as I said before. There is nothing that says that Keir Starmer is the leader of the opposition and he is kind of speaking up for the safety and welfare of ordinary people in Britain and the rights of the most vulnerable, the refugees, asylum seekers and refugee seekers. And he is not yet come across as condemning the murder of this Marcy Beguma, who was found dead in a flat in Glasgow. So we shall be coming back to this in the next edition.